Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Please like this video, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our posts. Today we are diving deep into a story making big waves across Nigeria right now, the upcoming protest scheduled for Monday, October 20th, 2025, in relation to Nnamdi Kanu and the preparations by Omoyele Sowore. So here's the gist. Sowore has publicly stated that they are not stopping the protest for Nnamdi Kanu, come October 20th. At the same time, the authorities, particularly the police and courts, have moved to restrain certain activities. The tension is high. Let's unpack what's happening, why it matters, and what could follow, and I'll break it down so everyone can understand. First off, who's who and what's at stake? Nnamdi Kanu is the leader of the proscribed group Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB. He's been in detention for a while, facing charges that include terrorism and incitement. Sea of controversies surround his case, jurisdiction issues, medical condition claims, multiple court appearances, and delays in his trial. This background matters because it's the reason the protest is being called. Omoyele Sowore is a well-known activist and political figure in Nigeria. He's previously run for president, founded the party African Action Congress, AAC, and has organized other mass actions in the past. He's now mobilizing for the #Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest set for October 20th. According to the latest reports, the police issued a warning, saying groups planning protests in Abuja must obey a court order that restricts demonstrations around key government sites like the Presidential Villa, Oso Rock, the National Assembly, and the Court of Appeal. The court, a federal high court in Abuja, has granted an interim injunction restraining Sowore and others from protesting near those specified locations, the Oso Rock Villa, National Assembly Complex, Eagle Square, Shehu Shagari Way, and the Court of Appeal. But at the same time, Sowore says the protest will go ahead. He reaffirmed readiness to lead Nigerians to the villa on October 20th. What this means, on one hand, you have state institutions, using court orders and police warnings, trying to place limitations on the protest, especially around high-security or symbolic government areas. On the other hand, you have the protest organizers, pushing ahead, signaling civil action, demanding the release of Kanu. Now, why does this matter for you or for Nigerians? Several reasons. Rule of law and civil rights. The question arises, when is a protest lawful? If courts restrict protest spaces, does that infringe on the right to assembly? The state says yes, rights activists say such restrictions risk stifling dissent. National security versus public voice. The government argues that because Kanu's case is charged with terrorism, mass protests could escalate tensions, threaten public security. The activists argue that long detention, multiple adjournments, and perceived injustice justify public voice. Precedent for future protest actions. How this plays out may affect how future protests are regulated in Nigeria. Will the state more readily enforce injunctions? Will protest organizers find new avenues or get shut down? Symbolic power. The choice of venue, Oso Rock, National Assembly, is symbolic. Marching to those places sends a message to the highest seats of power. It's not just a march in a generic location. It is directed and pointed. Let me walk you through the timeline and key turning points so far. Sowore announced the protest for October 20th, under the #Free Nnamdi Kanu Now. Sahara reporters reported this. The police, on behalf of the federal government, filed an expert motion in court seeking to restrain the protest around key government sites. On October 17th, the court in Abuja granted the injunction restraining protest in those defined zones. The hearing was adjourned to October 21st for full motion. Despite the injunction, the protest organizers say they will proceed. Sowore stated they are ready to go ahead. The police then publicly warned that any attempt to defy the court order will be met with enforcement, and that evidence from social media may be used. Now let's talk about possible outcomes and what to watch on October 20th. If the protest goes ahead without disruption, that would signal high organization capacity from the activists, and might force the government to engage. If the protest is blocked or faces heavy enforcement, then we might see confrontations, arrests, or even violence. The authorities are warning this. If the protest shifts to other locations, not restricted zones, the organizers may adapt and still make their point. Media coverage will be key. How local and international media treat this may affect narratives around human rights, detention, and dissent in Nigeria. The government's response after the event will also be important. Will they hold those detained accountable? Will they review Kanu's case? Will they reinforce restrictions on protest? A few questions to think about, and I'd love to hear your views in the comments. Do you believe the protest for Nnamdi Kanu is legitimate given the charges against him? Does the government have a right to restrict protest in certain areas, like around the villa, on grounds of security? Or does that become an infringement of civil rights? If you were organizing such a protest, would you accept restricted locations, or push for full access? What do you think the government's true concern is, security, image, or both? If you were to forecast, do you see the protest being peaceful and successful, or running into trouble? Let's also tie in a broader perspective. Protest and civil action have a long history in Nigeria. From the military era to civilian rule, grassroots movements have been crucial. But at the same time, the government often responds with restrictions citing public order. This latest event is a microcosm of that larger tension between authority and citizen voice. And on the issue of Nnamdi Kanu specifically, his detention has been controversial. People question whether his trial is fair, whether his health is being taken care of, whether legal processes are being manipulated. These concerns fuel the reaction we are seeing. Now, let's dig into the legal and political side of this matter and what it could mean for Nigeria moving forward. So, right now, the big argument is between freedom of expression and national security. Sowore and the other organizers are saying Nigerians have every right to protest peacefully. They are saying the constitution allows freedom of assembly and freedom to express opinions publicly. According to them, stopping people from protesting peacefully is a way of silencing the masses. But on the other hand, the government side, through the police, the courts, and security agencies, is saying, we're not stopping anyone from speaking, we are only saying, do it in a safe place. They argue that the National Assembly, also Rock, and Eagle Square are high security zones, and a large protest there could be hijacked by hoodlums or lead to clashes. So you see, it's a very thin line. The question is, where do you draw that line? Because while the government is talking about security, activists hear suppression. And when activists talk about freedom, the state hears potential chaos. Now, remember what happened during the NSAS protest in October 2020. That's why this date, October 20th, also carries emotional weight. Many Nigerians still associate that day with the Lekki toll gate tragedy. So, some people feel this new protest coming on October 20th is not just about Nnamdi Kanu, it's also about the bigger fight for justice and accountability in Nigeria. You can already see comments online. People are saying, why are we still dealing with court orders stopping peaceful protests 5 years after NSAS? Some Nigerians are even drawing a parallel between Sowore and past activists like Gani Fahimi or Fela Kuti, who also challenged the system no matter the cost. Now let's talk about Nnamdi Kanu himself, because at the center of all this, he's still in DSS custody. Reports from his lawyers say he's not been given fair treatment, and his case has dragged on with no clear end. They've been pushing for his release, at least on medical grounds. On the other side, the federal government insists that because the matter involves a national security, it can't just release him casually. But think about it, this issue has now become more political than legal. Even though it's in court, the energy around it feels like a political movement. It's not only IPOB members talking, you now have civil rights groups, youth movements, and even everyday Nigerians saying, let the man have his day in court properly, and let justice be seen to be done. Now let's shift a bit and talk about the possible political undertone. Some analysts are saying that the Sowore-led protest could also be testing the strength of opposition voices in Nigeria ahead of future elections. Because if the protest gets massive attention and participation, it could show that there's still a strong hunger for change among young Nigerians. Meanwhile, some ruling party supporters are saying Sowore is only using the protest to stay relevant politically. They believe he's trying to gather national attention and show that he's still a major voice in activism and opposition politics. Whatever your view, one thing is clear, this protest is symbolic. It's not only about Kanu, it's about how Nigeria treats dissent, protest, and justice. Now let's talk about security concerns and what might happen on the day. Reports say police and other security agencies are already drawing up plans to deploy personnel in Abuja and other key states. There might be heavy presence around government buildings, and intelligence units are said to be monitoring social media to track mobilization. We've seen this playbook before. During big protests, the state often warns, arrests key organizers, and then deploys security on the streets to discourage turnout. Sowore himself has been detained in the past for leading protests like #RevolutionNow, so people are watching closely to see if the same pattern will repeat itself. But Sowore's response so far has been clear. He says no intimidation will stop them. According to him, the protest will be peaceful, disciplined, and lawful. His team is also calling on Nigerians across states, not just Abuja, to gather in solidarity. So this could end up being a nationwide demonstration, depending on how well it's coordinated. Another angle we can't ignore is the public mood. Many Nigerians are tired of inflation, unemployment, power issues, insecurity, and high cost of living. So even though this protest is branded around Nnamdi Kanu, it's tapping into general frustration. People might come out not only for Kanu, but to express anger about governance in general. Some citizens are saying, this protest might be the voice of the voiceless. Others, however, are cautious, saying protests often end badly because of lack of coordination or violent infiltration. So right now, there's this mix of fear and hope. Before I continue to the last part, where we'll talk about the potential aftermath, what Sowore's next move could be, and how the government might react after October 20th, please, take 1 second to like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends.